The development of Anno 117 Pax Romana is an interesting milestone in the long trajectory of the Anno series, especially as it is the first title to transport the same strategic gameplay and city building to the era of ancient Rome. From a conceptual point of view, Anno 117 started with a bold challenge. Not just bringing a historically rich setting with detail, but also maintaining the complexity and strategic depth that made the series famous, while seeking to make the experience more accessible to new players. The development team, led by creative director Manuel Reinher, focused on modularizing the experience to offer different levels of engagement. This means that novice players can explore part of the map and narrative with more context, while veterans continue with the traditional management of multiple territories and trade routes. Despite the effort to be more friendly, complexity was not sacrificed, and the game introduces new mechanics, such as specific attributes that link resources to varied effects on the population and economy, encouraging more integrated and strategic urban planning. A notable characteristic of this development was the reintroduction of the narrative through playable characters with individual stories, a novelty for the franchise. In Anno 117, one takes on the role of a Roman governor, choosing between two siblings, Marcus or Marcia, each with motivation. Introduction of provinces with distinct cultural identities, such as Roman Latium and Celtic Albion. The development sought to present this cultural dualism dynamically, giving the player the possibility to choose between Roman assimilation or the preservation of Celtic traditions, which probably amplifies the feeling that each playthrough can unfold uniquely. Another sensitive point addressed by the development is the delicate historical approach to themes such as slavery in ancient Rome. According to the developers, despite the existence of slavery being integrated into the storyline to maintain authenticity, it was removed as an active gameplay mechanic, preventing such a heavy theme from becoming part of the direct recreational experience. Instead, it is the liberty, former slaves who have a complex bond with their former masters, who make up the initial workforce, presenting a more realistic and profound social layer without falling into potential controversy among players. The technical part of the interface and the balancing were taken care of to please both nostalgic fans of the series and new players. Some important innovations in the game engine allowed for new active pause systems and more fluid management of urban resources, balancing complexity with usability. The development involved carefully listening to the Anno community to deliver a product that not only maintains the characteristic traits of the series, but also opens up to a new generation, broadening the reach of the city builder genre. Anno 117 Pax Romana emerges as an ambitious project that respects the historical and mechanical legacy of the series, but dares to innovate to create a richer, more narrative and socially conscious experience. Personally, I find this direction of development especially interesting because it demonstrates a rare maturity in the world of strategy games. The attention given to the balance between accessibility and depth, combined with the willingness to treat complex historical themes with respect, makes the game not only a pastime, but an opportunity for cultural immersion and reflection. This focus on a more personal narrative and choices that impact the relationship with the Empire seems to me an intelligent way to humanize a seemingly distant era, inviting the player to feel part of a larger context. The fact that the game opens up space for modding also indicates a commitment to perpetuating the community and engagement, something I highly value when following a long franchise like Anno. Anno 117 Pax Romana brings a fascinating approach for those who are passionate about history and strategy games, immersing the player in a significant chapter of the Roman Empire, the period known as Pax Romana, in the year 117 AD. Here, the focus is on the stability achieved after decades of military expansion, where Rome reached its peak, dominating territories from Britannia to Mesopotamia. The central narrative revolves around the role of governor, a figure tasked with transforming a peripheral province into a pole of prosperity and greatness, always facing dilemmas between maintaining local traditions or imposing Roman order. The plot is more than a simple city simulator. It invites the player to feel the weight of the balance between power and peace. Forget the romanticized vision of the heroic and infallible Rome. Anno 117 puts you before the ambiguities of the Roman command, evidencing how peace often depended on force and vigilance over allies and internal enemies. The protagonist's life, whether Marcus, a young man without much self-confidence, but with the opportunity to prove his worth, or Marcia, whose ascension challenges the Roman patriarchy, is filled with complex moral decisions, and each choice reflects directly on the citizen's destiny and the essence of imperial power. The well-structured campaign mode is not content with merely demanding the city grow. It stimulates the player to question how far it is worth sacrificing local identity for the sake of Roman order. This aspect especially pleases me because it provides a personalized experience. You don't just follow instructions, but shape the history of your province according to your sense of justice and leadership. Even though the script is defined, there is room for creativity, and this creates a very interesting replay layer for those who like to test different paths. The scenarios are perhaps one of the high points in the setting. The game does a masterful job of reproducing everything from the fertile plains of Latium, passing through the Celtic swamps of Albion, to desert regions inspired by Egypt. These spaces not only impact expansion strategies, but reinforce the feeling of being faced with a true cultural mosaic, something that has always been fascinating in Roman history. I felt that the game goes beyond build and expand. It provokes reflections on how to deal with diversities, environmental and social challenges that echo even today. Another facet that caught my attention is the proposal for cross-progression and multiplayer. Despite the story mode being the heart of the plot, knowing that it is possible to share progress between platforms and play online greatly expands the potential for narratives and rivalries. Imagining that my province can prosper or face difficulties against other players makes every choice even more significant. The game brings a gameplay that balances tradition and innovation within the strategy and city-building genre, set at the height of the Roman Empire. The central dynamic revolves around the role of governor of a province, where the player needs to manage everything from urban growth to economic, political, and military issues, all with greater freedom to build cities more organically, outside the rigidity of standardized layouts of previous titles in the Anno franchise. The production and logistics system is one of the elements that caught my attention. It's not enough just to construct buildings. Detailed planning is necessary to ensure the constant flow of resources between the islands. This requires strategically positioned warehouses and efficient trade routes so that goods reach where they are needed, ensuring the population can consume goods and contribute taxes. The clear intention here is to offer a management challenge that requires a broad vision and patience to adjust the details of the economy. Another cool point of the gameplay is the system of social classes and the evolution of citizens. Unlike more rigid systems in the series past, now it is enough to meet certain minimum requirements to promote the population to the next level, which brings more flexibility for the player to decide their strategy. This change allows for development to be both faster and more thought out, depending on the player's style. This seems like an intelligent evolution to me, as it combines challenge and freedom without the pace becoming too tiring. Warfare and the military aspect also gained greater impact in this edition. Unlike classic Anno, where naval combat was predominant and battles more abstract, here it is possible to move troops through the city streets and worry about real walls and defenses. This adds a very cool strategic layer because you need to think about the protection of your provinces as a living entity, not just a point on the map. This mechanic reminds me a bit of the Total War style, which for me is an addition that greatly enriches the gameplay. The campaign brings missions with varied objectives that go beyond simple territorial expansion, inserting events with decisions and choices that impact the course of the story. This provides an interesting break from the routine of management and construction, offering moments of different challenges that demand more from the player in terms of quick and strategic decision-making. Although some phases may seem a little slow, the narrative and events compensate with a greater sense of involvement, a characteristic I consider essential to maintaining interest. The sandbox mode also caught my attention due to its depth. It allows adjusting difficulty parameters, choosing human or computer-controlled adversaries, and offers total freedom to build without restrictions of fixed objectives. This is great for those like me, who like to experiment and create their own stories within the game's universe, without rush or external pressures. The richness and the variety of structures and possibilities is real. One just needs patience with the pace that can be slower, especially at the beginning. An aspect I find very cool is how the game integrates progression, strategy, and narrative with detailed setting. You don't just build to grow, but to create a province that reflects both the cultural diversity of the empire and the tensions of that historical moment. I was quite satisfied with the feeling that every decision affects the economic, social, and military balance, which makes the experience not only strategic, but also deep and engaging. Anno 117 is very impressive for its detailed graphics and art direction, which manages to capture the apex of the Roman Empire faithfully and vibrantly. Right away, the visual of the cities is extremely rich, with buildings, temples, columns, and statues that bring a very well-recreated Roman architectural style, bringing life to every corner of the game with great attention to small details, from terracotta tiles to delicate mosaics, which for me greatly elevated the immersion. The coloring is another strong point that deserves mention. The game uses a vibrant palette that makes the environment seem alive, both in the constant movement of citizens and the diversity of markets, ports, and landscapes. This use of colors helps to give a unique visual identity to each region, ensuring that, while you play, you can easily identify where you are, reinforcing the sense of scope and diversity of the great Roman Empire. The visual setting also impresses by recreating well the different biomes that make up the game world. From the Mediterranean to the northern regions and the Celtic islands, each map has its own identity, reflected in the terrain, vegetation, and typical buildings of the region. This departs from the traditional and creates a dynamic and varied scenario that for me shows visceral respect for the diversity of the empire and is a constant invitation to explore and expand. The graphical performance matches the visual quality, with the game managing to run stably in high resolutions, such as 4K, maintaining frame rates that ensure a fluid experience, which is essential for a strategy game that demands a lot of attention and broad visualization of cities. I personally found this important because it eliminates that typical frustration of graphically heavy games on less powerful platforms, expanding the audience that can fully enjoy the game. Another detail that pleased me was the movement of the characters and the life of the cities. Ubisoft managed to energize the scenarios with animations that are not just decorative, but help tell stories within the game, such as market vendors, workers on constructions, patrolling soldiers, and even climatic events that highlight the pulsating reality of the Roman cities. The feeling is that of truly observing a living and breathing empire, which creates a differential for the player's sensory experience. Despite all this visual richness, the game also manages to maintain a relatively clean interface, which is not easy in large-scale games with multiple interacting systems. Even with so much information on the screen, the way it is presented and the graphic design collaborate so that the player does not get lost or feel overwhelmed, at least for those, like me, who have some experience with strategy games. There is still room for adjustments, but the foundation is solid. My impression is that the graphics are one of the most impactful points of the game, capable of transporting the player to the Roman height in an elegant and detailed way. The combination of a faithful art direction, visual diversity, realistic animations, and a solid performance creates an immersive experience that reinforces the historical theme and gives life to a simulation that goes beyond simple strategy to become a visual celebration of the Roman Empire. Initially, the game shows a very beautiful and ambitious graphic, which requires relatively robust hardware to run at maximum settings with fluidity, especially in 4K at 60 FPS, an objective that is not always achieved stably. During the first hours playing, I noticed that even on a powerful machine, the game can show performance drops, especially in moments with many elements on the screen, such as large cities and more active battles. This behavior is common in complex strategy games, where the processing of economic and logistical systems consumes a lot of computational capacity. This feeling somewhat impacts the fluidity of the experience, especially for players accustomed to more optimized titles in the genre. In my opinion, the performance, despite showing some initial flaws, does not totally compromise the gameplay, but requires patience and adjustments. It's the type of game that demands a certain commitment, where it's worth investing time to configure the graphics options and understand how far your hardware can go to extract the best of the Roman world. This can be frustrating for those looking for a plug-and-play experience without technical concerns, but for fans of the genre, I think there's a satisfactory return. It is worth noting that the game is not a fast-paced action-adventure, and its more paused nature can help disguise some moments of performance slowdown, as many decisions are made at a strategic pace without requiring immediate reflexes. This greatly helps to maintain the focus on management and construction without very abrupt breaks in immersion, a point that pleased me and I believe other players also value. Another interesting aspect of the performance is the management of memory usage, which proved to be well controlled in most tests, even with the generous amount of visual details and number of units on the screen. However, I noticed overheating in high-performance GPUs, especially with ray tracing activated at maximum, suggesting that there is still room for improvements in this department to ensure a more stable experience in all possible configurations. My personal view is that Anno 117 delivers a performance that matches its level of graphical and mechanical ambition, but that needs attention to avoid technical frustrations. The game is not perfect in this sense, but it offers tools for the player to customize the experience and extract the maximum from their hardware, balancing quality and fluidity. My personal opinion is that it depends a lot on your profile as a player and what you expect from a city builder experience. The game arrives bringing a very rich historical setting at the height of the Roman Empire, and this alone is a strong point for those who are fans of the genre and enjoy this historical immersion. If you like to build cities, manage resources, balance economy, diplomacy, and even military power, Anno 117 offers this package in an accessible version with a more intuitive interface that facilitates entry, even for those who have never played anything similar before. But at the same time, for those who are already fans of the franchise, especially after titles like Anno 1800, they might miss some deeper innovations. The game seems to rely heavily on the series' already established formula, bringing some visual improvements and changes in mechanics, but without revolutionizing the style. Therefore, if you are a player who likes radical novelties with every launch, it might be worth waiting to see reviews and updates that can justify the investment right at launch. Another point to consider is the launch price and the possibility of discounts after the debut. Like many strategy and city builders, Anno 117 tends to receive updates and patches after launch, and a wait can ensure a better price and a more polished experience, avoiding bugs or technical issues that may appear initially. If you are not in a hurry to explore this ancient Rome and prefer to wait to guarantee the game at a more attractive value, waiting for a promotion might be the best choice. Another point to consider is the launch price and the possibility of discounts after the debut. Like many strategy and city builders, Anno 117 tends to receive updates and patches after launch, and a wait can ensure a better price and a more polished experience, avoiding bugs or technical issues that may appear initially. If you are not in a hurry to explore this ancient Rome and prefer to wait to guarantee the game at a more attractive value, waiting for a promotion might be the best choice. I see that the game is also a great gateway for new players to the Anno series, precisely because of this new, more intuitive interface and well-implemented tutorials. If you've never played anything from the franchise, Anno 117 can be the perfect excuse to start, with a setting that makes everything more attractive besides the complex system, which doesn't intimidate as much as before. For those who like the mix of history and strategy, this balance is perfect. I would recommend buying at launch if you are a fan of the genre who gets excited about the Roman historical theme and wants to be one of the first to explore this universe, even if the game doesn't bring a great reinvention of the series. If you highly value technical refinement and robust new mechanics, perhaps wait for detailed reviews and a possible discount. For the casual player or those getting to know Anno now, it's a good choice to start venturing into this style. My personal impression is that Anno 117 has the potential to be a striking experience, mainly due to the setting and balance between accessibility and depth, but its value at launch will depend on how much you bet that the game delivers this mix of tradition with novelty in the short term. So, the final answer is, if you are passionate about strategy and want to get into this Roman atmosphere right away, it's worth buying. Otherwise, wait a few months to ensure the best experience and price.